I was going live here. It said, you know, I got a I don't know, it's something about making sure it's safe for you on YouTube. Like I'm not doing anything dangerous on my page. I mean, I don't know what that means. I mean, you watch the video. It's not like I'm, instructing you to create a weapon or something. I don't know. They want, I'm gonna keep you safe. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Depending on your man's right here, I'm gonna keep you safe. You know what I'm saying? My heart was over here and I did it over. Anyway, Alex Will 64, what's going on, man? Before we begin this live stream here, Anime Ghost Files. Like I said in my last live stream, Anime Ghost Files is now up and running. I just uploaded the potency of Dragon Ball Z. So any of y'all that's into Dragon Ball Z, or used to watch it as a kid, or you still into it, got a very insightful video of that, dealing with the power levels of Dragon Ball Z and how how realistic it is, and how how you can apply some of the principles that you see dealing with that power level aspect of Dragon Ball Z to your life. So I got that on my Anime Ghost Files channel. Subscribe, share, do what you gotta do with that. But if there's anything that I would love to do between now and 2023, is go to the Kang. Take me to the Kang. Girl, I'm going to go see the Kang. What Kang we talking about? Because you thought I was just using, down south black ebonics vernacular when I say the Kang, which is, the king. But I'm talking about Kang the Conqueror. So we dealing with the Marvel thing, Kang the Conqueror. And for those of you that already know, you didn't seen the show Loki on the Disney thing, and you're seeing this guy, what's his name? Jonathan Majors, the actor. He played in what's that show? Lovecraft Country, the Five Bloods, and that whole Netflix thing. What else he played in? He's supposed to be playing in that new Creed movie, Creed 3, with Michael B. Jordan. The black guy. He also played trying to see all his movies that he plays. So y'all let me know what other movies. Jonathan Majors. So he's now been casted to play Kang the Conqueror from the Marvel comics, to be in this whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU. And I won't take me to the Kang, because if there's anything or anybody I would love to study from and learn from, it would be that character, Kang the Conqueror. Why? Because they're sitting here saying that he's stronger and more of a threat than Thanos. But why? Because Thanos was on some snap. He was, he snapped one of y'all, like, you know what I'm saying? Snap. I'm trying to do the hardest snap I ever done in my life. Snap. That hurt my finger. But anyway, what makes this villain so dangerous is because he can control entire timelines. So you snapping your fingers to make half of the population disappear across the universe is nothing in compared to someone who controlled the narrative the whole time. You're talking about a being who establishes what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how much of it is going to happen, and when it's going to come to its end. That's power. That's power. See, wherever there's a narrative, whoever controls that narrative, or whoever came up with that narrative, is the one in charge. That's the one with the power. Doesn't have to look powerful, doesn't have to, shoot energy blasts or have any type of mutant abilities, or, wear a cape and go around like he's Superman. You know what I'm saying? Don't have to be that. Why? Because this person or this entity controls what happens moment to moment. They control the time itself. I want to take me to the Kang. I want to learn from the Kang. Now, I didn't think that the whole Kang the Conqueror thing was, that character was that dangerous, because it's like, it's a Marvel comic book character. See, we like to focus on the Thanoses and the Killmongers and the, what other villains? The Magnetos, Apocalypse even, you know what I'm saying? Like these famous villains from, Marvel comics, like the Green Goblin, Venom, you know what I'm saying? I can keep going on and on. Um, those type of villains. But this is a person who controls what happens from moment to moment. So the reason why I'm coming here to talk about it is because, is there something about that? Is that a power to have? Is that something to tap into? Like, is that something to develop and then be able to exercise, or just simply understand? I want control of my narrative. I don't want you having control over it. I don't want the government having control over it. I don't want, you know, Illuminati to have control over my narrative. Narrative is important. We're telling stories. You watch your movies, you watch your TV shows. Your life itself is a story, right? Have you ever, you've said it before, you heard someone say, yo, my life could be a book, yo. My life could be a cinematic picture, you know what I'm saying? $1 billion budget, you know what I'm saying? My life could be a book, a story, a movie, you know what I mean? I mean, it could be a movie, but they keep focusing on these remakes and stuff. So I don't know if you'll make it into that queue for your story to be in Hollywood. But yeah, of course, narrative. Now I have this whole thing that I studied, which is known as narrative linguistics, or more completely, the narrative linguistic nature of metaphysics itself. So, for those of you that are interested in things of a metaphysical nature, it would behoove you, using that word from training day, it will behoove you to understand narrative. Now, not just narrative as it exists as a story, like if we were studying literature in high school or college or something like that, which again I highly recommend. But it's all about, if you control the story, that means you control the forces of what happens. Like you're the head honcho. Like you say, I want this to happen, and all the forces conspire to make that so. Now, for those of you that are into magic and you're trying to control, you're trying to gain more money, or you're trying to be more sexy, or whatever you're trying to do with magic, it's always a control element there. Like you're trying to control what happens and what does not happen. But you look at a character like Kang, and this is someone who is supposed to be the controller of a whole timeline of a universe. So this is the entity that's determining who's going to be the strongest, who's going to be the weakest, who's going to win in a battle, like who's going to lose, who's going to live, who's going to die. You wrote that story. Because you wrote the story, you control the whole world. You control it. It's yours. So even if you're writing a story about titans and gods and eternal beings, all those characters are at your mercy because you wrote it. You designed the narrative. The narrative is Kang. Take me to the Kang. You control the story. So no matter if someone's sitting here saying, oh, I'm the most powerful thing in existence, well, not according to the person that wrote you into existence, or the one who wrote the story. You're at the mercy of that narrative. You don't do anything more or less than what the narrative is dictating. Just like how the Joker was saying in The Dark Knight, he was like, people are only as good as the world allows them to be. But in this whole narrative situation, you're only as powerful or strong as the narrative has allowed. So if you look at this whole Kang the Conqueror being introduced to the MCU, or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's introduced as the one, he who remains, that's his nickname. He's the one that controlled everything about or it's attributed to him. He controlled everything from the first Iron Man movie up to this Wakanda Forever movie, at the time of the recording of this live stream. He ran that. He determined who was going to do what, who was going to die, who was going to survive, and da 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 da. And I wonder if we're just talking, is that just something that for the sake of comic books or movies, or is this something based on a real actual thing? Because now we can start getting into things like karma and the wheel of samsara. If you're talking about things on the Eastern side, like Hinduism and Tibetan Buddhism, where they're talking about karma, the wheel of action, or the wheel of samsara. You know what I'm saying? And the whole goal is you to get out of that wheel. But who wrote the story of the wheel? Who's turning it? Who wrote what's going to happen in them cycles? See, those of you that study, you're into chakras and stuff. Chakra literally means wheel. like a wheel of a car or your steering wheel. But it's like, who controls the wheel? The Christians be like, oh, Jesus, take the wheel. But aren't you supposed to take the wheel? Because wouldn't that really make you the deified entity if you're looking like, self deification or apotheosis, or, what I'm saying, you're trying to step into your godhood? Ye are gods, everybody's a god, I am a god. Hurry up with my damn croissants or something like that, right? What is more godly than you taking the wheel and steering this shit? Tell me what's more godly than that. And that's the whole thing about the circle or the chakra or the loop or the wheel, the circuit or the circus, or this any word that relates to wheel or circle, is there's two ways you can deal with that. Either you can be bound by that circle where, what I'm saying, you like this and it got you tied up, like as if, there was a rope around you and you're tied up, like your handcuffs are circular, like this whole thing of you being bound to something. Or the other side of it where you control the wheel like you driving, like you whipping that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? You ever had like the best whip you ever had, the best car you ever had, you was whipping that bitch like this? You know what I'm saying? Diamond in the back. So, you know what I'm saying? Whipping that shit like a gangster lean. You control the wheel. You control which way it turns. You control like what's on the wheel. And everybody or anything that is subservient to the wheel must do thy bidding. It must do thy will. So if you look at Kang the Conqueror, he got the wheel. He's the one that drove the whole story. No one's going to be more powerful than that motherfucker. He controls what happens. So take take a depthical ponder at your life. Like take a more depthical understanding and look at your life, right? What's really controlling the things that happen in your life? And I'm talking about from the time you came out the womb to you watching this video right now. Who ran that whole thing? Was it you? Was it God? Was it Allah? Was it the Orishas? The Mayombes? The Apollos? Who was running the show? Are you running the show, but you don't realize you're running it? Like you don't realize you're at the wheel? And that kind of introduces the whole autopilot thing too, because like in these times, the technology is advancing, or they're making it seem like there's an advancement when this, it's a timeless or an ancient technology, whatever you want to, however you want to approach it. I don't care. But the whole thing of cars that can drive themselves, like you don't have to ever touch the wheel. Like you can, if you wanted to drive from New York to LA on some, what I'm saying, road trip shit, they're making it like the car is dry. You don't have to consciously or manually be on the wheel. It's taking you across America. You know what I'm saying? You're seeing the Grand Canyon and the Great Plains where the buffalo used to be, but now they're extinct because everybody was eating them up. You know what I'm saying? You get to see depending on where you drive, you get to see the highway. You know what I mean? Looking for adventure, whatever comes my way. Got the motor running. White man, so headed on the highway. And the car, the Tesla car takes you, you know what I'm saying? It's automatic driving, so you don't ever have to touch the wheel. That sounds real similar. Is that how your life is? You don't control the wheel, but it's driving you in places where it's like you don't control where it goes. Is that your life? Like you're not at the wheel, like you sleep at the wheel. The wheel is automatic. So everything, every process about your existence is under some other type of control other than your own. So you're not consciously controlling anything, right? Are you consciously controlling your breathing? Are you consciously controlling how long your hair grows? Are you consciously controlling the respiratory and metabolic processes of your body? Like you're usually not even consciously, you only something y'all don't even, you're not even aware of it. But these are the involuntary controls and actions that something is running. Now, in dealing with Kang the Conqueror, it's like, well, I'm inspired to kind of find out, What's really running this shit? What's really running it? Who designed it? Who's driving? Because if you're not driving, something or someone definitely is. Someone's driving. Who's driving? Because I'm like, if I was driving, could I have avoided certain collisions, certain directions, certain pathways had I been driving if I was on the wheel? You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all don't know how to parallel park, and that's okay. It's a epidemic. You know what I'm saying? You see, like you could be driving in Philadelphia, and you see like on the side of the street, there's a perfect spot for you, but it requires you to do like a parallel park, and you're not really adept at that, so you just kind of you drive, you try to find like a parking lot, $10 an hour or something like that, or $10 for the day if you get lucky. But who's driving here? Who's driving? You got to understand, if you caught up in this whole wheel of samsara, or you caught up in the wheels of karma, I don't think you're driving. You're on autopilot at that point. Because there's things that happen to you that I know personally you wouldn't want to happen, but because you're not driving, you don't really get any kind of conscious control over what's going to happen to you next. You know what I'm saying? Like, or let me give you an example that you may be more familiar with. Let's say you come across like you're a dude and you done had sex with 700 people over the course of your life. You done had sex with 700 women. It's something that we all dream about. We all, Lil Wayne was like, I wish I can fuck every girl in the world. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, I mean, how far does that go? Are you talking about, you know, women over the age of 18? Like, you got to ask these questions to people. Like, what do you mean by girl? Is this just you? Is that for women? You got to ask. You know what I'm saying? You got to ask that. But dealing with the example, if you done had sex with 700 women, was that something that was predetermined that you was going to do, or did you have control over the fact that that's how many women you was going to have sex with? Because now we're getting into determinism, things that happen and they were going to happen regardless of how you felt about it, or saying if you thought you was in control of the situation. So let's say like before you even existed in the physically, you know what I'm saying? Was it already predetermined that you was going to have sex with those 700 women? So there was no chance of you having sex with 701 women, and there was no chance that you was going to have sex with 699 women. It was going to be specifically 700. And then by contrast, people that only had sex with three people in their life, they was never going to have sex with any more than those three people. Now, who decided that you was going to have sex with 700, or if you was going to have sex with three? Who or what determined that? Because this just wouldn't affect you, right? Because then you're having sex with other people. So now let's look at their narrative. So in their narrative, they was going to meet you sometime during the course of this, lifetime, and did they have who determined that? Like, do you determine who you meet? Do you determine who you have sex with? Like, are these things that you already chose before you got here, or you make that choice as you go along in your life? Now, getting back to Kang, this is a guy who, for all intents and purposes, wrote out and determined how things were going to go. He determined it. So everybody in that timeline was really doing his will. And then you have the idea of, you have these multiple universes where these other Kangs, you know what I'm saying? Take me to the Kang. Like, these Kangs are battling out to see whose timeline is going to be supreme over the other. But that's a movie, right? What about, in this life you live right now, in this physical matrix you in? Who determines this stuff? Like if you were to be a millionaire in this lifetime, who determined that? What determined that? Who determined when you was going to be a millionaire? How come if you were like, let's say you're a millionaire right now, how come how come you were a millionaire at age 26 instead of age 36? Who's determining that? Why wasn't you born into a millionaire family? Who determines that? So what I would love to do, and like I said, maybe you'll follow suit, is find out who or what is exactly determining or controlling your events of your life. Which also means that you have to start knowing your cycles. We already dealt with psychology, you know what I'm saying? Learning your loops and your cycles and the things that you do repetitively and without you even knowing it. You can start there. But also understanding who determined these cycles for you. Was it you? Now, I dealt with the whole thing of, your prenatal existence, meaning everything that went down or was, happening before you even came out the womb. Is it just you being in, the womb and, you know, being in your mother's womb and all those biological processes happening during the pregnation or the pregnancy? Or is there more to it? What if during those 9 months or 10 months of you being in the womb, everything that was going to happen in your life or anything that you was going to do was already kind of pre-calculated. It was already pre-written so that as soon as you come out the womb, you're going to live all that out. Because it also deals with the illusion of choice. So you thinking right now that you're choosing to listen to me or you're choosing to subscribe to my channel and listen to the words that I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? Or watching me do what I do. Did you predetermine that before you came physically born? You was already going to deal with me, or you made the choice right now that you was going to watch me do what I do. Just think about all the other people you could be watching right now. You're watching my video at this point. There's millions and millions of people on YouTube, but you're watching my video at this point in time instead of someone else's video. Does that have any meaning? Does that mean anything? Because you could be looking at that and saying, well, I mean, it's inconsequential. There's nothing symbolic about that. There's nothing meaningful about it. However, on the flip side, perhaps there is. You know what I'm saying? Because this video can be on this channel, 7 years down the line, and this is the first time you watching it. So I'm putting the video out in 2022, but you're probably watching this in 2028. Instead of in 2022 or in 2023, you're watching it 7 years or 8 years or 9 years down the line. So who structures this shit? This is what I'm asking. Now, obviously, you go with some Abrahamic religion, it's going to say, oh, God is the one, God's hand, he's directing, everything. And, what I'm saying, this perfect plan of, it's God. Like they put it on God or Allah, you know what I'm saying? Or Yahweh or whatever God you're dealing with. But if so, can you also take part in the designing of your own narrative? Now, here's an idea. If I design my narrative where I never get into a physical fight or ever have to worry about my physical safety physically, you know what I'm saying? And I create that narrative. What need would I have to learn martial arts or learn guns or anything of that nature? I controlled and I know the narrative, so I'll never run into people who got guns or who wants to physically harm me. That means I never need to learn kung fu. I never need to learn karate. I never need to learn how to bust a gat. Because I know my narrative and I will never be in situations where I need to be a warrior or need to fight. You see what I'm saying? So now fighting becomes obsolete. I will never run into a situation where I have to fight. That's the way it was written. Now let's deal with something more practically and something that is very sensitive in these times. You getting stopped by the police, you getting pulled over by the police, you getting racially profiled by the police knocking down your door, the police watching you, they doing whatever, right? On that level of, you're driving on the highway or you're driving down the street and they pull you over. Now, a lot of, black people are afraid of that. You know what I'm saying? They fear that because of the narrative that was put forth that, these cops out here is dangerous and they willing to use lethal force against you. Again, if the narrative is written in a way that you never ever coming across any of these law enforcement agencies or, officials or whatever they want to call themselves, then I can drive any way that I want to drive. Because the narrative is dictating that I'll never run into them. Do you see the magic in that? The control that I have? Knowing that I will never run into these people, I can do whatever the hell I want to do on the road. I can treat any highway in America as the Autobahn. You know what I'm saying? The Autobahn is a highway or, yeah, it's like a highway in Germany where there is no speed limit. You can go as fast or slow as you want to in the Autobahn. You know what I'm saying? Here's another. I'm trying to deal with real world scenarios here, like nothing that's too crazy. Like, even though we're dealing with like this is the whole MCU is a sci-fi fantasy fiction based on the Marvel comics. You know what I'm saying? So it's fictional on that level. Let's deal with real world examples. So for example, like you have women out here that are complaining about the men, like they're saying that today's men are weak or you know they're not chivalrous or they're just really complaining about men and men being in dominant positions, like they're in a patriarchy and they're being oppressed. You know what I'm saying? Men are making more money than them at the job. Men they're not good at dating anymore. Just men are dogs, whatever disparaging comment they have against men or male species of humans, right? So my whole thing is, well, sweetheart, listen to me when I walk with me when I talk with you or talk to you. How come you are experiencing these male problems in your life, but this woman over here doesn't have any of those issues? The man that she runs into never gives her those problems. How come you're having the problems with men and she's not? How come you keep running into men that want to punch you in your face, or keep dealing with men that are that you know what I'm saying that keep cheating on you and breaking your heart? How? Why is that? But this woman over here, she has a perfect relationship with her man, to the fact that it makes you jealous and envious, and now you want to have sex with him and wreck the home. But that's what I'm saying. It goes back to determinism. You keep running into those type of men. Your girlfriend never runs into those type of men. Why? Why are you specifically running into these, so-called low down, dirty, you know, maybe emasculated men? Like you keep running into that. But again, your girlfriend isn't running into this. She's having a great time with men. She don't have any bad relationships with men in her life. But you keep having them. Why? Because then what does that do? That causes you to now overgeneralize men to be these, dogs and always want to control things and they're, disgusting and they're rapey and whatever else you want to, like I said, whatever disparaging insult you have against men. But you're making it seem like all women are having that issue when they all aren't having that issue with you. So obviously what you're saying about men is really the men you deal with. The men you done had sex with, the men you done encountered. I mean, we take, how many people are in the world? Maybe 7 billion people exist on this earth. And if we just deal with the USA, maybe like 300 or 350 million people live in the United States alone, right? And out of that, you probably have like 20% is like black men, right? But you still keep running into the dusty ones or the dirty ones or the, what I'm saying, the ones that'll, go upside your head and all that, whatever. The worst of the worst. You keep running into them. Why? And on the flip side, let's say say I keep running into women that keep breaking my heart or they keep cheating on me or, I'm saying, they keep, trying to emotionally manipulate me. Like, why do I keep running into those women? But now, if I do something, or say I get to a level of my motherfucking narrative where I don't even run into those women anymore. So wherever those women are, I'm never there to ever meet them or to ever talk to them or ever have any conversation with them whatsoever. Why? So, the problems that a man would sit here and complain about, talking about, these women ain't shit or, they all hoes. And I'll be just sitting back being like, I never have to deal with that because I'm never where a hoe is. Like you are in situations where you run into hoes all the time. That's your narrative. Like that's the walk you are going through in this lifetime right now. You keep running into them, and I never get into contact with them at all. I don't have that problem. So for me to join in with any of these men talking about women ain't shit, that's like I can't join that conversation with you because I don't have that issue. Now, I will agree with you that, there's women that you could put in the shit category, but like I said, I don't run into them because I'm not where they at. You are where they are. So tie that back to your narrative. You keep being in places where these things happen. That's a part of your narrative. Why is your narrative that way where that's the events that happen? Because this is where it also ties back to ultimate responsibility. And I've made videos and stuff about this before. So a lot of this stuff kind of overlaps. So I take ultimate responsibility of my life, to repeat myself. That means anything that has happened, will happen, is happening. I take total control of it or total responsibility, meaning that because I was in the situation, I have to take responsibility for me being there because I didn't have to be there for that experience to happen to me. I was there. So why was you there for that to happen? Who are you going to blame that on? God, Allah, Yahweh, the Orishas? Like, who are you blaming for anything that happens to you? See, I take full responsibility because I was there. I didn't have to be there. And then, even on a higher scale, because I exist in whatever form that I exist in, I chose to exist. And not only choosing to exist, I chose to exist the way that I exist. Meaning, in physical, I chose to be this bald head, sexy, Philly beard looking dude with the, what I'm saying? And I chose my voice. I chose this whole thing. Who else am I blaming for whatever the fuck is going on or what I am? Responsibility for your own existence is the true start of power. It's the true origin of that power. Because otherwise, what are you? You're a victim. You chose to be a victim here where you are affected and accosted, what I'm saying, to be more vocabularistic. What I'm saying? You chose, what I'm saying? You're saying that you are being accosted by things outside of your control. You're a victim. You chose to be a victim type guy. But because, like I said, I'm choosing to be responsible for my existence and every experience based on my existence, I have the ultimate responsibility. So now I'm moving closer and closer to seeing what's the reason of my narrative, and can I control it after I fully understand why it's happening? Or do I need to control it? Because again, if I pre-chose or I pre-selected all this shit before I was even born, what changes do I have to take, or like what changes do I need to do while existing in this physical form? And that's where the whole thing about lessons, like for example, you think this devastating or tragic thing that happened to you was for nothing. What if it was the lesson you already chose to be a part of? It's like you pre-selected the classes before you went to college, right? Why are you in a class you didn't select, to be in? You know what I'm saying? So looking at your life, if I ever get in a car accident, or if I get married in the Bahamas, or if a woman, she cheats on me with two other dudes, like I chose to be a part of those situations for whatever reason. And this also you can also say this: if I didn't design my narrative, I definitely would, without a doubt, chose to live it out. So before I even physically existed, something or someone could have said, "Okay, this is the life of a fisherman, and you're going to. This is all the things that's going to happen to this fisherman in this physical life. Do you want to exist through this?" And I could have said yes or no, right? And if I say yes, that means I'm acquiescing to everything this fisherman is going to go through in that physical lifetime. So for you to be sitting here saying, "Oh, I'm doing magic, I'm doing things to, what I'm saying, manipulate my reality," and I'm like, well, what if you was already going to do that anyway? What if you already chose that before you got here? So it's not you really changing anything. It's just you going on a narrative where this was going to change regardless. So for example, let's say you're going to be a millionaire at age 40. Like it's already in the cards, it's already, this was a part of the narrative. You're going to be a millionaire at age 40. But what if right now you're 22 and you on that same track of everybody else? Get money, hustle hard, only sleep 2 hours a night type shit, that Gary V shit, you know what I'm saying? So what if you're failing to be a millionaire at age 22? You failed at 23, you failed at 24, you failed at 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. You failed in those 17 years of not being nowhere near being a millionaire. How does that feel? Of course, you don't really know, or you forgot as a part of your narrative, when you was born, that you was going to be that millionaire at age 40. But you're living a life where it's like there is no indication that you're going to be an accredited investor, or you got all these stocks and bonds and properties or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But you're on this narrative path of failure up until age 40. So that means there's nothing you could have did to make yourself become a millionaire before age 40. It was never going to happen until you got to age 40. It was never going to happen before that time. Never. There's nothing you could have did. You could have had the right people around you. You could have had the right investment funds. You could have, went to a seminar that teaches you how to invest in muni bonds or whatever, forex, whatever. You could have tried to invest into the the whole Bitcoin thing, which is, saying they exposing that today. I don't watch so many videos about, you know cryptocurrency being a sham in a shisty environment. You know what I'm saying? They scamming a lot of people in that. So you could have did all that and failed at every single venture. And this is where timing comes in. Because it was timing. You was never going to be successful until age 40. So what was the point of you failing your whole life to become a millionaire until age 40? What was the point of that roller coaster ride? Again, if you chose this before you was physically born, then there must have been some sort of educational value to you going on that failure roller coaster. Perhaps you needed to fail up until age 40 to understand, what it means to be successful, or what it's like to not reach your goal until it's time for you to reach your goal. Because why not choose a narrative where you was already born into a family of millionaires? Like your dad was well off, your mom was well off. Why are you being born to parents that aren't well off for some of you? Why are you being in, why was you born in the damn near the poorest ghetto in United States? Why was you there? Could you have chosen to be born to millionaires or people that are well off? But let's take it back to the Kang. I want to see the Kang. Take me to the Kang the Conqueror, right? That's going to be played by what's his name, Jonathan Majors in the MCU movies, right? Who ultimately decides your narrative? Now here's another thought. Here's another introspection here. So what if, in order for you to become a millionaire by age 40, you had to go through all this shit first? And there's nothing that if you missed anything between you being born up until age 40, if you missed anything, that means the millionaire thing was never going to work. So that means you got to look back on your life and be like, was it worth it? If it meant I had to fail all these times or go through all this crisis and bullshit throughout my life in order to get to this point at age 40 of being a millionaire, right? Was all those things worth it to get there? Because it's just like if you was going to cook some sort of like if you was cooking fried chicken or something like that. Because some people use eggs and milk and all this stuff, and it's like this is stuff you would never put in your mouth unless it was all fried and cooked up. Like if I put raw chicken in flour and then put it in an egg wash and then put it in flour again and handed it to you, would you eat it? Like, would you like feast on that? No, you would wait until it's fried golden brown, like my shit golden brown, and then eat it. So no, you wasn't about to drink the egg wash or eat the uncooked flour. It had to go through a process of cooking, and then that's when you ate it. Now, what am I saying? Like, for example, what if you had to go through a trauma that was going to eventually lead you to success? So that means you have to be accepting of all the things that happen up to that point of you being a million. You have to accept everything. It was a part of a narrative you chose to go on. But who determined that? Because this is how I'm looking at everybody, including myself. You chose to be exactly what the fuck you are right now. You chose that. That was your choice. Now, did you design your narrative? Perhaps you can go into the discovery to find out. But you definitely chose to live it, regardless if you are the designer of it or not. It's just like if we put a game on, like if we put on Fortnite, you chose, like, you know what I'm saying? You chose to play the game. You chose to play Fortnite. Like you chose to play that game. There are rules to that game. There's things that are there and there are things that are not there. but you chose to be there anyway. You didn't design the game, but you chose to play. So what if this whole Earth thing is a game and you chose to play it? Choices we make trying to escape. It's crazy. It's crazy shit. I'm just saying, like, some people don't want to look at it that way. I'm trying to get me something more to drink. Hold on. Hold on. All right. Think about all the people you meet over the course of your life. How come you didn't meet them years earlier or years later? Like your husband or your wife, how come you didn't meet them at age 20? Why? How come you met them at age 36 or something? Why not at age 20? Because these are big life events. Like you can possibly have kids or already have children with these people. And then what do we agree with within our, like when our narratives, collide or our narratives connect? We agreed to meet each other today. We agreed to meet each other 20 years ago. I agreed to be your son. You agreed to be my wife. This is talking about random people. I agreed to be your worst enemy. But did I agree right then and there at that time that we became enemies, or was this something before I was even born? So going back to determinism, there's nothing happening in your physical that's random or coincidental or by chance. It's all predetermined. It's already etched in stone that was going to happen. But who did the fucking etching? That's what we're trying to find out here, right? Was it Kang? Kang did your etching? And what's interesting is now they're making Kang the Conqueror the main villain in the MCU. You know what I'm saying? And they chose to have a black man play Kang. There's nothing in the comments that says that he was a black guy. So why are they making Kang the Conqueror a black guy? You need to understand that Hollywood prioritizes propaganda over good storytelling. Tell your friends that aren't in the know. These people in these media industries prioritize propaganda before story. So this is why I don't care about people exclaiming, how powerful they are or how strong they are or how magical they are. It's like, well, let's see what this narrative that we're in, what's going to dictate who wins and who loses. Because this is the whole thing about acceptance, because you can get into a lot of these like Hindu and Buddhist understandings, excuse me, about acceptance. You already chose the narrative, so why are you trying to go against it? Or said differently, this is the way of the ocean or the way of the water. Why are you going against the current? I mean, then it's like or you can look at it this way. You chose a narrative where you were going to go against the current. And then knowing that you wasn't getting anywhere with it, you would go down flow. Or you could have chosen a narrative where your whole life was that you was going to go up against the current of things, and that's how you was going to die. When you how should I say this? What do you remember the date or at least the year when you came into this whole conscious stuff or this occult stuff? Because I can say when I was like 24, that's when I really started to like get into, the whole ancient Egypt thing and the masonry thing and conscious community and all that stuff. Like, how come I didn't choose that at 18? Why did I choose that at age 24? Or why not at age 34? Why did I choose to come into this stuff at that particular year and that particular age? Because there are people who get into this stuff at an earlier age than I did, and there are people who get into it later in life, like when they become like 50. You know what I'm saying? See, these are all symbolic of things. See, paying attention to the times and dates and the ways and accents of when things happen is a part of the whole narrative, linguistic, metaphysical understanding. That's why I like you being aware of when someone enters your life and when they leave, or when you enter someone else's life and you leave. Like this stuff is all kind of pre-written. That's how I don't see it any way other than that. It's too specific for it to just be something random or by chance. But hey, you get to see this thing how you want to. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to sit here and listen to what I'm talking about. But that's just something I found on dealing with this stuff. If you already chose it, why complain about why it happened? Why complain? I mean, but again, another way you can look at it is that you chose to come here and complain. Like, for example, if you have a shitty mom or a shitty dad, or both of your parents was shitty, like, okay, so why did you come here to be born through them? Just so that you could be mad at them for the rest of your life? Is that why you came here to exist, just to complain and be mad at your parents and then behave accordingly with other things and people in your life? Is that why you're here? Okay. 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 Like you chose to be born to be mad at your mom. That's why you. That's a part of why you're here. That's crazy. Because if you came here to be angry, then there's something for you to be angry about, right? But my whole point is, okay, did you design this shit? We know you acquiesced to it because you're here existing and going through it. So did you design it though, or did Kang design? Who designed that? Because it's a pretty detailed design, right? Like all the stuff that happens and when it happens and who it happens to, or who was there with you, or if you was alone. This stuff is too specific to be random. It's too specific. Said currently this is facts AOL. Oh, not AOL, this ain't the early late 90s. He said LOL. There we go. So again, going back to y'all that think y'all doing magic and all this stuff, I'm just looking at y'all like you was probably already going to do that whether you did the ritual or not. But the ritual itself could be a part of the narrative too. And then thinking about people that, they say if you say something, then it can happen. Like if watch what you say. And I'm like, well, I'm looking at that a little different. What if you're just forecasting what's going to come or what's scheduled to be there? Because now we can look at schedules. You know that in your schedule, like for example, you work a 9 to 5, you're supposed to be clocked in around 9 and you leave at 5 o'clock. That's your schedule throughout Monday to Friday. You know what I'm saying? That's your schedule. But look at your life schedule. What is scheduled to happen to you at age 37? What is scheduled to happen to you at age 22? What is scheduled to happen to you at age 69? What was the schedule for your birth? You don't see this stuff as this stuff being scheduled already? Like when you got your virginity took, like was that going to be at age 16 or 10, or you was going to wait till you was 20? These are scheduled events to me, pre-scheduled. It brings to mind a movie. What's the movie? Adjustment Bureau with Matt Damon. Anthony Mackie is in it. Who else is in that movie? The guy from what's his name? What's that? Made Men. What's that show? That 1950 show where you have those executives that deal with advertising and stuff like that. They got that dude in there. The dude that plays Tony Stark's father in the MCU, and Matt Damon in them. Where Matt Damon, he was supposed to do something within his narrative, but he did something that was he wasn't supposed to do. Like I guess fall in love with the woman. I guess that was his twin flame or something like that. So all the Adjustment Bureau agents, you know what I'm saying, that work on a higher level of existence, they were trying hard as hell to put his ass back on the narrative track that he was supposed to be on. But I guess by the end of the movie, they just let him fall in love with the woman. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a predetermined path that he was supposed to be on, but he broke away from it. But it begs the question, my nigga. It begs the question: was that part of his narrative that the angels or whatever the Adjustment Bureau agents didn't know about? Because that could be a determined path too. It's just that the people that was trying to put him back on another path or the path that they think he was supposed to be on, they failed at it. So that means those angels or those Adjustment Bureau agents themselves are a part of the narrative. Now we get into meta understandings. Meta. We were breaking fourth wall and stuff. Because, like, for example, if this a character in a movie and he says there is his destiny to snap his fingers and destroy and kill half life in the universe, well, let's look into the destiny then. Is the destiny the script? So in that MCU universe, the narrative is the actual written script of the movie. So that means Thanos was probably aware of the fact that he's in a movie. Who else? What other two characters are like this? Even three: Deadpool, the Joker, She-Hulk. They break the fourth wall all the time. They are aware of the fact that they are in a comic book or a movie or TV show. That's the secret to their character. They know they are in a narrative. Or do you know that you're in one? You know. Well, you're finna find out. Your barbecues like that. That like the Joker, like he knows he's a comic book character. That's why he, the narrative of the comic book is it's a joke to him because it's like nigga, I'm aware that they're writing this for the entertainment of comic book readers around the world. I'm aware that I'm a comic book character. So you can even backtrack of when Joker is dealing with Batman that he's trying to show Batman and everybody else that nigga, this is a comic book. Why so serious? Why so dead ass? You don't know that you're just illustration within a comic book right now. You don't know that. And it's dealing with the whole fool thing, or the jester or the Joker. Obviously, you have the Joker here. The whole thing about the sacred clown. The sacred clown is supposed to know this stuff. That's what makes him a sacred clown. The clown knows what's going on, while everybody else in his community doesn't have no clue of what's going on. They don't know that they're in a predetermined narrative that they are, if you want to go with the whole Carl Jung thing, they subconsciously or unconsciously chose to be a part of, just like in the Matrix. There's nobody in the Matrix that didn't decide to be in that motherfucker. It changes the dynamics of the story. So it goes from, oh, the machines are oppressing you to you actually kind of wanted to be in it. And we're just facilitating you. That means I don't care to wake anybody up that chose to go to sleep. You came here to sleep. Who am I to wake your ass up? But it can be a part of the narrative where the sleep and the so-called woke are at war with each other. And that's a part of the writing. It says, so with that awareness, does he gain any control over, or can he influence his narrative from the perspective of him being that character? In a way, yes. Because who possesses the writer to actually write the story? Oh! That was me simulating an explosion. I'm not mentally ill or anything like that. Think about it. ponder. You know what I'm saying? Ponder. You know what I'm saying? Ponder dust. I need some ponder dust for, you know what I'm saying, get y'all to ponder. And sprinkle it, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not Salt Bay, I'm Seasoning Bay. You know what I'm saying? You know Salt Bay that do the thing with the salt and it come down and shit. So I'm Seasoning Bay. So he just got salt. I got Lowry's, I got adobo. You know what I'm saying? That Goya little packet, Goya packets, you know what I'm saying? If you grew up around the Spanish or Latino community, you got the little Goya packets and stuff. Cajun seasonings. I'm looking at all my seasonings that I got on my thing right here. You know what I'm saying? Carolina rub barbecue. You know what I'm saying? Seasoning Bay. Yeah, you can be possessed by spirits and write stories about them based on how they control your pen. You know that? And part of that would be the whole automatic writing thing. Something I know how to do, don't tell nobody. But you know the automatic writing thing where you let a spirit use your hand and you got a pencil or pen or something and it takes over your wrist and your arm and writes messages through your arm on the paper or whatever you're writing on. Because I mean, look at the Joker. Like, how old is that archetype? The trickster. That's a very old archetype. It goes all the way back to Kemet and probably earlier than that. So what the Joker is like, and this is every character. What Batman is, what Kang is, what Iron Man is, super. What they are basically just different versions of the same archetype or principle. So the Joker with that sacred clown is not a new thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not a new thing. It's just this era's rendition of it. You see what I'm saying? This era's rendition. You know what I mean? Oh, somebody said, I would ask from the level of predetermining outside of the predetermined narrative, what is the self? Like, what is the nature of it? Self is one, all. That's what self is. All. And the awareness of that all. The awareness of the fact that this is all based on you. It can never be outside of your configuration. I have a saying that you can tattoo on your arm. Nothing that happens to you is outside or beyond your configuration. So everything you're going through, everything you're experiencing, everything you're doing is all part of your own plan. Talking about, why is this happening to me? What do you mean? Because of you. Nothing happens to you outside of your configuration. So you think about the nastiest, most terrifying thing that could ever happen to a human being, you'd be like, oh, why they do that to him? Because he was in the situation. Why was he in the situation where that could happen? He was there. So now we got to look at responsibility. How did you get in a situation where this horrible thing happened to you? How did you get there? I don't care if you just came out the womb and something horrible happened to you. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not the human. So if we're saying that you're predetermining things that happen to you before you even become, or thinking that you are a person or a human in this whole matrix, you know what I mean? So we think about, like, for example, and this is dark territory, we get like the whole pedophile thing. You know what I'm saying? That whole spiel, that whole thing. Why was I? How come I was never in that, but those kids were? Who or what determined them to be there, and I wasn't? Because now we got it, and it's a hard pill for people to swallow, but you chose that narrative, or something chose. Again, it's either you chose it, The narrative, like you design the narrative, or something designed it for you and you acquiesce to it. This is what I'm seeing. Again, if you're more advanced than me, you know what I'm saying, share that with the world, you know what I'm saying? Correct us, but I'm I'm hard pressed to see it another way. You chose that. For what reason? Now we get into the occult. Now we get into the esoteric. Now we get into self-knowledge. Why? Because there's things that happen to us or happen where it's like, okay, it happened. How am I, like, what's my reaction to it? Because that's, you can also look at the events of your life as just things there to draw out, aka education, the things that are about you or inside or that is you. So now you need these sequence of events to draw them out of you or draw them to the surface or to the foreground of activity. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a nasty low down dude, you need events in your life where the nasty low down part of yourself will come through. And that was the point of this thing happening. You know what I'm saying? If you are holding on to some sort of fear, then that means there has to be an event in your life that draws that fear to the surface. So that means it's only there based on what's going on with you. It's not beyond your configuration. You need events in your life that draw your fear out. That's why they happened. So going back to the Kang, I want to learn from the Kang. Because Kang the Conqueror is, like I said, he's responsible. He's said to be responsible for the way that the whole MCU thing is, like the way that it went. It's his fault. He decided who was going to live, who was going to die, who was going to come back to life, who was going to time travel. He determined all of it. So now you got to ask the characters of the MCU, well, why did y'all niggas acquiesce to his design? Because this is what I'm trying to, understand. Like, is this these designs? Did someone design it for me? I know I acquiesced to it, but who designed it? I didn't build the Chevy truck, but I decided to ride in it, right? So this is why I was saying definitely earlier last year too, like control your narrative. Or realize that the narrative that you're on is something you chose to be on. So this roller coaster called life or whatever, or your physical life, enjoy the ride, baby. Enjoy the ride. Take me to the Kang, baby. Hold on, he says, so then why would you want to do anything outside of your configuration that you chose before you came here? Shouldn't you just rock out and trust your original choice? Well, that goes back to acceptance. Going with the flow. But understanding who determined the flow. You know what I'm saying? Who determined the actual Tao or Tao? Who's determining this shit? I was gonna say that I said the way of the water already because they just came out with that Avatar sequel. Are you going to see that? I would only go to a movie just to enjoy the spectacle. I'm not interested in the story. I just want to see, oh, they made that look real as fuck. I would only pay my money for that. Like I ain't gonna sit here. Like what the narrative was of the Avatar movie that came out in '09, right? Where it was basically Pocahontas and Fern Gully mixed into one. Or what's Dances with Wolves. It was basically that with a lot of advanced special effects. I would even, matter of fact, if I made that movie, I would sell it that way. Fuck the story. Just come in and see the special effects we did. Ain't that amazing? You wouldn't pay $10 for that? I'll pay $10 and make it look like the realism of the Pandora. I would pay $10. Fuck the story. I just want to see the effects. You got all these people on YouTube making these videos about how movies have gone down in quality. There's no story, it's just effects. And, movies are like theme park rides. They're not real stories anymore. Well, I want to go on. I like the roller coaster stuff sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Said exactly. Said so. That's the real lesson is to get to the realization of trust in the flow. Well, like I said, it's also understanding why the flow is designed the way that it is for you. You know what I'm saying? Because this is something I call auto determinism, where again, all these events that happen to you or that you go through or that you're into is really determined by the identity you chose to be here. So there's nothing outside of your configuration again. So this is something that, this is what you would want to, go on that discovery. But the discovery of that can also be a part of your narrative. Because you can discover this at age 20, you can discover this at age 64, you can discover this at 2 years old, you can discover this at 102. Why those ages that you discover this stuff and not anything earlier or later? And then knowing yourself, I know why certain people come into my life. I've already said this before in previous videos. I know why people come into my life and why they leave. There are people that come into my life and then leave, and then someone who's just like them comes right in their place. Like, maybe a week later or a month later. It's like, damn, I'm dealing with this person all over again. Different face, different name, different part of the world, same spirit, quote unquote. Same everything. The way they talk, the way they move, the things they say or do to me, all that. But I know that they're in the my event because there's something that's going to be drawn out of me based on dealing with them. So now that this part of me is going to be with me till the end of my life or whatever, I will always keep running into that type of person that's going to help draw this part out of me out. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, like I'll always come in contact with women that are just like my mom, just like my brother, just like my dad, just like, my sister. I will always keep running into these people. And the point is they draw out that side of me that the original person was responsible or was, that original person was there to, draw that out. That's why we study the first 7 years of our life, our moon phase, to be able to know what's going to, how we're going to behave and what people we're going to be dealing with for the rest of our living life. So this is called character line. I call it the character line thesis, where again, like for example, if I'm dealing with someone that's just like my mom, for example, I know why I'm dealing with that particular woman each time I deal with her. So I can deal with, over the course of my life, 20 different women that are just like my mom and know exactly why they pop up. Whether I'm working, whether I'm out in the street, whether I'm on the internet or Instagram or YouTube, or I'm at a party, I'm at a club, I'm on an airplane, I'm 1,000 miles away in Japan, I bet you I'll come in contact with a woman that's just like my mom. I'm telling you. But that's character line thesis. That's a whole nother aspect of this whole thing. But that's where I wanted to kind of end it at, because we over an hour. I don't want these videos to be too long. So like I said, man, I got my anime Ghost Files channel up and running. You know what I'm saying? I just did a video on Yu Yu Hakusho, and today I just uploaded the potency of Dragon Ball Z. So you want to check those out on my anime Ghost Files channel, because we go in depthical or deeper into these anime shows. So the next one, I'm definitely going to do One Punch Man, definitely going to do Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Death Note. I'm watching One Piece now, Neon Genesis Evangelion, all that stuff. I'm gonna do videos on all that. So again, thank you for watching. Alex Will 64, Wholography, Ether-INS, my ether-ins.teachable.com website, Ackerson Sum website is down there. And like I said, if there's anybody to learn from right now, definitely the Kang. Take me to the Kang.